Hello, my name is John Antonakis and I'm Professor at the University of Lausanne. Together with David Day at the University of Western Australia, we have put out what we believe is a timely, useful and very readable volume on the nature of leadership. Leadership is one of the most fascinating topics of study, whether looked at from a psychological perspective, sociological, economic, political science, anthropological. Wherever there are leaders, there are very important consequences, because by definition, leaders wield power. As Warren Bennis notes in the concluding chapter of our book, we should study leadership with the same self-interested intensity that we study diabetes and other life-threatening diseases. Why? Because leaders wield power. We will only understand them if we are able to control them. And to control them, we need to understand what predicts good leadership and bad leadership. What are the factors which allow leadership to develop and be cultivated? What is ethical leadership? All these questions and more are treated in our book. You may wonder, why another book on leadership? Well, this book is special. It's not written by me and Dave, but it's written by many authors who worked collectively on this project. Leadership is a vast domain of knowledge, and for one person to master everything about leadership is practically impossible. So what we did is we handpicked experts from different areas of leadership and asked them to write something that was going to fit in a volume that would be cohesive and useful as a handbook, as a textbook, and as a reference guide to do leadership research. Interest in leadership has waxed and waned over the decades. The problem we are faced to now is not that we don't know enough about leadership. The problem is we know too much. How can we separate the wheat from the chaff, the science from the myth? This is what we try to accomplish in our volume. For anyone who's done a review on leadership, they will know that they are faced with a voluminous amount of research. Imagine if I gave you as a task to piece together a puzzle, but unbeknown to you, I have put 5 different puzzles in there, shaken them up together and tossed out a few pieces. In exactly the same way, leadership is a very difficult phenomenon to piece together, which is why we have actually done most of the sorting for you. 25 world-leading experts contributed to this book, which is divided into 5 parts. In the introduction, David Day and I look at leadership from a historical perspective, showing what has been, what currently is, and what is to come. In the next section, we have a wonderful conglomeration about theoretical issues regarding leadership, how we should go about studying it using the most advanced statistical methods, how to develop leadership, and finally, and a new introduction in our book, is we look at the veritable nature of leadership, evolutionary, neuroscientific, and endocrinological perspectives. In part 3, we look at the major schools of leadership, the ones that have really started up and created a vast amount of research. The first one we look at is individual differences in leadership. Then we go on to examine contingencies and situational aspects. Then we look at transformational and charismatic leadership. And we're going to look at the nature of relational leadership. We look at leadership from the minds of followers, and then we look at leadership from a very different perspective, one which is called shared leadership. In section 4, we look at emerging themes and special domains in the form of culture, in the form of gender, and also identity. And finally, we're going to look at ethical leadership to see whether ethics and effectiveness can be reconciled. The last chapter is written by Warren Bennis, Dean of Leadership Gurus. He's updated his chapter to take into account current issues, and he writes with that wickedly clever style that is so reminiscent of Warren Bennis. Warren Bennis makes it very clear why it is important to study leadership. Our very lives depend on it. The problem is that when leaders wield power, things can go well or things can turn out pretty rotten. And power is to leaders what blood is to vampires. Once they get a taste of it, they can never let go. That is why it's so important to understand the nature of leadership, the nurture of leadership, how we can better select and develop leaders. I hope you enjoy reading our book.